the Zionist agenda because I think to discredit all the other
Let's not use those terms on
yeah.
Let's
I
call
mean,
them
like,
lions.
Yeah,
It's a
I already went
lioness,
far enough
a lioness agenda.
at the beginning.
but what we all mentioned earlier from this entire stream is that the idea that the Scythian migrations were the lost tribes of Israel, and like if they were trying to solidify their claims in the Levant, they have to discredit all the other migrations of the existing Jerusalems all across the
Yes.
world.
Yeah, those had to
Which is
be
what
divine and by God. Yeah, exactly. So they couldn't have other ones. Yeah.
and then Korea specifically, at one point,
And this is
Pyongyang was called the Jerusalem of the East.
Yeah, and supposedly Moscow has also claims of Jerusalem of the East too. Sorry, so
yeah, and there's even Jewish ties to America.
Exactly,
like Dr. Longo has been talking about.
Exactly. Shout out to his Greek and Jew. A lot of the Greek was crypto Jew Greeks and their actual genetics to the Cherokee, both surviving Cherokee population of America, but also the original ancient Cherokee written language, as well as like spoken definition language.
Right.
How similar it is to ancient Greek. Like it's like so undeniable.
It's pretty much the same, yeah.
Right. So it's like there was these times of just world trade, travel, breeding, living societies, and that it seems that it was the Aryans, the Tartarians, the Barbarians, but also the Moors. But the Moors are the from the time before.
The Moors were the from Lemuria, weren't they? And
but then it's like I guess. Well, the Moorish people, that haplogroup would be the ones that could have been part of the Sea People, or would have been part of the Sea People, and that essentially there could have been like a Chinatown in every city, in every port city, just like there's a would have been a port of Africa, a port of
people were the Phrygians.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
White dudes with beards.
Egypt, a port of Asia, like China, a port of like Turkey, Greece. Like it's like it was. There's
China. Yeah, there's Chinatowns everywhere. Yeah, and all the first as civilizations and cities, there's always a Chinatown. But I think that when you look back into it, everything we read about these people who brought technology and stuff, it sounds like after a reset, they're always these big white dudes. They're always with beards, right? So they're the Nordics, the Scandinavian, the Vikings.
Well,
who we know were seafarers. So that's the Frisians or the Phoenicians, right?
Well, not necessarily the Phoenicians, but I think we're misappropriating the Phoenicians with Phrygians.
And Sumerian history and Babylonian history.
See, this is the thing: is the Phoenicians are supposed to be bad, right? And the Phrygians, well, the God, there's so many words. The Frisians seem to be the good ones, right? Phrygian.
No, not necessarily.
As far as they're the ones. You know what I mean?
They're the ones that founded democracy.
The Phoenicians are supposed to be the bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so Phoenicians, I'm assuming, from what I know about flamenco and whatnot, I'm assuming the Phoenicians are a phantom civilization, which is why how it's in their name, Phoenicians.
You're right.
Yeah.
And they were also responsible for all of phonetics, which is all of language and spoken language.
Exactly.
Language.
And our snake tongue of English that somehow took over. So how different is
it's also similar to Phoenix,
to Old English or how different is Old English compared to Latin as compared to modern English is to like French and Spanish, and you also want to include whatever the Nordic runic language was of that time. And it's like they would have been these interacting civilization languages in between those times, and then a catastrophe cut off something or happened, and then there was these repopulations and new localized only for a while, and I guess it's there's a pattern forming, and that I'm envisioning how you write the equation to check in the human genome interactions to like confirm what the hell I'm saying.
Like
and
those
like
flow charts of populations and stuff they do.
Yeah. And
migration.
Then compare it with when, like, how they have Devonians as like these semi-giants. It's like, what is that to the actual elongated skull people and skeletons and genetics? And then compared to, we have the primate of the chimpanzee. Well, if there was these megafauna, other mammals, and these elongated that were like 9 or 10 feet tall, supposedly, and that they had double the cranial size, which is absolutely different than our current one, how different they are from each other, and what would be this other whatever the heck demigod or god that created us, that we are small fractals of, is, I guess.
Oh well, so like I remember,
if you look
like,
into the Greek stuff, they talk about the Hyperboreans. I mean, it sounds like Hyperborea got flooded out, right? And the people they had to go south, and they were more technologically advanced than us, and that's why they were the sea people, because they were coming over.
The issue with all those stuff is so like ever since World War II, with the whole Theosophic societies, like the Cthulhu Society and whatnot, all this like mythological people like the Hyperboreans, Atlanteans, Lemurians, was compartmentalized into almost red herrings from what I'm seeing. Hyperborea in itself was a city state within Scythia, which I found in a map. I can actually pull that up in a bit. But
it's all stories of genetic populations that connect back to the common human gene that we were as the caste genetics, as opposed to the ruling monarch or king genetics.
But instead of this esoteric explanation, I'm more so under the impression that really like we're pretty much hyperbolically putting these people out of proportion. Like the Atlanteans, I'm finding more evidence, are actually Phrygians, and Atlantis in itself was the the reshots.
Well, everybody was Atlanteans, is what I'm saying.
Well,
like we were.
No, but the Atlanteans are Phrygians, actually. Yeah. So Atlantis was a port city in Africa. There was a landing port to reach the New World, and eventually the Azores and the England.
Atlantis was also this time of there being bigger demigod-sized humans that were building the pyramids and also living and ruling us.
Maybe, but the thing is with Atlantis is I get what you're saying. It's all from one story, right? From Plato. But now we have all these other stuff being extrapolated out of it, which isn't necessarily based on anything.
I guess I mean it's like from the genetics of pre-12,000 years ago, mixing in with what they test and call us as Homo sapiens, and that Neanderthals, which is the next closest thing to us, would actually be what any of the elongated skulls, or the giants that you dig out underneath the pyramids
Giant,
would
mate.
be to
Yeah, they
us.
were bigger than us.
Okay, so that would probably
Yeah.
be like in how they're classing it, and that then
I'm under the assumption that like these giant people that we were reading about and uncovering weren't actually just like, oh, this Nephilims or whatever, like, exoteric explanation we give it to. Rather, like, normal people were just really tall back then, and then eventually got downsized through degeneration. Like, if you see people in Kazakhstan, like the rural people are still like still standing at a stature of 8 feet normally. And these are just random the normal people, like, so instead of like giving an esoteric
8
explanation,
feet. Wow.
I'm more so like under the impression that these are just our humanity, or the human species, were originally these great powerful species that we just have been degenerated through industrialization and being a docile culture.
yeah.
Water and food and all
Quite
that kind of stuff,
possible
and
too. Like we
environment.
destroyed ourselves. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Actually, that makes more sense.
Well, I think the reset with, I mean, the giants and that would have been, the very closest point hundreds of years ago, right? So, and
like
if there was only a small people of them, they would just integrate into society, and they'd kind of disappear. So now we have short people and tall people, and
so it's the time of
when you go to a tribe, right, they're all pretty much the same height, right? They're all the same stature, aren't they? Like tribal people.
Yeah, there's a very viral Reddit post that I've seen, but it's normal Kazakh people sitting next to Kazakh people sitting next to normal people, and they're standing at around 7 feet tall. Like, they're a whole head height above the average 6 feet tall people. Like, so I'm assuming like this whole like idea that I mean, like, yeah. So what you're saying, Bernie, like, I understand, but I think you're coming from the perspective of
I'm
evolutionary.
spitballing a whole lot of shit. Like, I'm just trying to make sense of it. Like, I really don't mean to be like those. None of that is facts. Like, I'm just trying to like come up with ideas of connecting the different like stories and timelines and populations of what we're told in a manner that can be like tested and proven in modern genetics, like was explained in Dr. Longo's Old World Florida's Greek crypto Jew. So what they're calling crypto Jew, that like the original tribes of Israel, or no, that's the new modern like genetics, right? Like it's that they're hiding a lot within the genetic codes, and that the truth is being found essentially, and it's a way to get the truth out of like the whole past of what we are and used to be, and what like all of humanity, that like we probably all existed in the same consciousness, but as giants or something in a past age of the sun, which would have been a past cycle, and that there was dwarves, giants, and probably regular men, but we're also told
it was Tolkien world.
Degenerates.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the biggest lie, is that we're all the same. Then there's only one species here.
Yeah,
clearly,
exactly. There we go. So, sorry, can I play this Terry Carter, who, if you don't know who he is, he's like a channel been around documenting treasure hunting, digging up pyramids, finding giants and golden tablets throughout Utah and the U.S. for a good 15 years now. And this is him interviewing the Brewer's Caves closest friend and associates, dying admissions and beliefs and discoveries that he was willing to talk about and give. And supposedly all the pictures and the drawing replicas of it are what was actually, or the drawings were actually done by John Brewer himself. Sorry, Andreas, if I'm trying to enter you at the same time, I'm going to not click you.
It's not on a live stream, mate.
But yes, back to the John Brewer dying cave story and disclosure and what they've found.
Video that he did for us that he wanted to share with us. And sadly, it wasn't too much longer after this.
Wait, so these are legitimate photos? Not Photoshop?
Robert helped uncover some giants that they'd found.
Supposedly.
And because of that activity in his life, that drove him to research and figuring out who these giants were. And so a lot of this video is some of his research, some of his findings about the Nephilim. So with that said, Robert, I'm gonna miss you and thank you for sharing what you have shared with us. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Thanks. So I'm with Robert Shrewsbury. He invited me to come down and talk with him, and he's going to share some information about some giants and things near where he lives and some things he had some dealings with. And with that said, I'll just let Robert tell the story because it's something I've been interested in a long time, but I never have really known the whole story. And let's just see what happens here. And with that said, Robert, take it away.
Well, the first time I met John Brewer was when I was in my 20s. I was pretty young. And David introduced me to him. And he asked me to help him because he says, Johnny Brewer has this cave and I'd like to have it. And we could work together and we could have it. And eventually, he said, you're a good talker. Maybe you can. I said, okay. So we went over there and he was working at the sewer plant, and he always worked graveyard in Moroni, Utah. And so we started that. We would visit him periodically over a period of years. And finally, when I moved to Los Angeles. There was a lot of good work there.
But yeah, I pretty much get the premise of what you're trying to explain here. But what really I wanted to harp on is the fact that everything we know about genetic theory is based off of evolutionary theory, which is all gradualism and this whole idea of a geological timeline and metallurgical timeline. But
what I'm saying that there's essentially both what's documented in the religious texts as genetic types peoples, that it's actually being proven as exchanges between our peoples and species, and then some other that were written that they ruled as kings, and that these kings ruled for thousands of years, and that there were these slaves below them, and
the sons of Anak. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but there's also that on top of the fact that I don't know how much we can take the empirical science perspective on this, how much we can take that seriously, mainly because the whole evolutionary theory is based off of theosophy. It traces back to the 1800s and Alice Bailey and whatnot. Because it's all transcendentalism, really. It's the idea that one species through a raising of consciousness could elevate to a higher species, which time and time again we find out is not possible, even genetically.
What?
So
it's the Tower of Babel moment.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, Charles, everything we know about evolutionary theory is pretty much based on eugenicism, because on all that it's all late 1800s ideology of the superior complex of people trying to prove.
Have you ever bred a dog?
Sorry?
Have you ever bred a dog?
No.
Have you ever bred plants?
No.
Then you don't know what genetics is.
But we know from recent studies, what may be recent, like is the past 20 years, is that like genetic DNA, it doesn't add information, but rather
it documents it all. I don't know how to explain it right now, but it's like there's a lot of science and documentary, like just the whole like field on like how genetics works. Like
but everything we know about evolution is rather the observation of adaptations. So a loss of genetic information to better adapt to a certain environment. Pretty much, DNA tends to drop dead weight information within the RNA to adapt to become a more efficient species to survive in their environment.
Yeah.
So that's not necessarily like becoming a better species or a higher species or more advanced species. Rather than it's in the process of degeneration throughout time, becoming with leading to efficiency, rather than growing an extra limb or something.
Wow. If God is like creator of all and we are a fractal of it in its image, and then you've got like the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, so that would also be part of existence, life, the simulation, the energy, the universe, the everything. That you had demigods as giant humans, but like animal, birds, reptile, different heads and stuff. Who knows, right? Like,
I feel like I'm aware of like the whole like the Abrahamic perspective and all these esoteric perspective on like giant humans, where they come from, being Nephilim, the whole sons of Anak stuff, the Anunnaki, whatever. Like this idea of a celestial extraterrestrial being coming down to Earth, breeding with humans to create a super species. Yes, but that's adding genetic information, right? But what we see throughout time is the degeneration of genetic information being lost, and like how people we can observe this today, actually, how people are just getting shorter throughout time, and also the loss of testosterone.
I've seen some pretty tall people too. But the giants, there's lots of pictures of them.
I'm aware. Like I completely believe they're real, right? Well, like but what I'm trying to, my point what I'm trying to get towards is the idea that evolutionary theory is entirely bullshit and is based off of theosophy.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
Because like even like so the whole evolutionary theory, its origins comes from Darwinism, right? And like the Darwinism itself, the whole book that he made, Origin of Species, yes. His book title specifically states origin of species by means of natural selection, but right underneath this is preservation of favored races in the struggle for life.
I'm more talking genetics, like CRISPR style, like DNA, RNA, like genetics. Like,
yeah, I fully admit the
biological chemistry aspect, not the
genetic.
We have the whole 46, 48 chromosome question too, right? We've got too fused chromosome.
Exactly.
What's that about?
We've been edited.
It looks like genetic engineering, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Like I'm aware gene manipulation. There's evidence of gene manipulation throughout history, especially in the ancient Vedas and whatnot. And like all these archaeological excavations prove that gene manipulation was practiced through all these within these intricate temples and whatnot. But the current modern theory and models that we have that the science scientific institutions hold it was primarily based on Darwinism, but Darwinism in itself comes from Theosophy. Like Charles Darwin was a close associate with Alice Bailey. Even wrote the book Within Her House, which is
Have
public
you read
information.
the? Oh my God, I'm too stuck to think of the name. It's sitting on my desk upstairs.
Yeah, he was right up in it.
Oh.
But we can't dismiss the fact that the book Origin of Species was published was published on November 24th, 1859, 8 years after London's Great Exhibition, 1851, which was what people argue as the actual starting point of the Industrial Revolution. But yeah, the entire premise of the Origin of Species is that if you control the environment of an ecosystem, you get to pick and choose who survives and who doesn't, and is entirely a genetic and it's entirely a eugenic thesis.
Yeah, survival
to justify. To justify
yeah.
capitalism and the Industrial Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution in its premise
it's predatory, prey, animalistic.
Yeah. Saying that the predator is the ultimate kind of, let's throw ethics out the window.
It's hawk and pigeon, like it's gonna be the cannibal.
I don't think I came from a retarded frog. Maybe I did.
Like in the animal kingdom, the hawk is like the giant that eats and feasts off of the dwarfs, and like there's the lion and the tiger, the kingdom of man. Like, so how come in the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, in this pre-12,000, at what was called by the ancient Greek civilization time period and language culture, the Atlantean, and that the Atlantean was the time of the megafauna, thus also would have been the time of the giants. So anything that was talked about as Atlantean would essentially be giant or something, like,
the existence of megafauna is not so far back as you think it is. It's that's
the survivors, right? They slowly got hunted out.
We've still got them.
Exactly, and they could be easily underneath us or next to us or above us, and that.
Ben from Analog has got some awesome stuff on all that kind of giant, reptiles and stuff.
We have medieval manuscripts that depict megafauna and whatnot. So and also we have Incan
documentation. So we as Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, was Neanderthals actually what existed as the genetic us during the time of when there would have been actual demigod or giant human genetics and people on living beside us.
Well, we would have
been the
survivors, won't they?
When they talk about the caste people, technology. It's like, what were these, like something in between, almost had our souls and almost who knows? I'm just spitballing. None of it actually
what are you saying?
If it resonates with you and you can make something out of it, great. If not,
do you know about the blue bloods though?
Guys got the Dead Man's talks about Brewer's Cave in America. Have you heard of Brewer's Cave?
No, I know
about a very famous cave of where giants were buried, the Nephilim in America.
The Native Americans even have a story about how they pretty much massacred the entire giant race in America. But
that went set a big fire up.
That was the leftovers of like the cannibalistic low hunter-gatherers. So that's like the last survivors of the original mega giant race of the mega pyramid builders of the time of Atlantis. Yeah, and that's what what destroyed the realm and caused the reset, or was it a war? Was it like, well, who knows? But that some of them, they were no longer kings and ruling us or in their numbers. They were still like just trying to survive and hunting us, still feasting off of us, and that's why we killed them all. You know, like so. Like there's
which is the same story as the Bible, right?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. All the similarities of both the Bible and then the Tartar, like Shamatic and Scythian stories, as well as all of the native, the Hopi, and the Aztec Mayan creation stories, right? It's like it either goes back to surviving from the time of the civilization before that built all of these magnificent pyramids and structures. Who did you guys build them? No, the gods built them. It was from the time of the gods, and that they, we survived from that time before. So, like, essentially, what I'm saying is, or the revelation is that we probably did live as modern humans under giants of the time of Atlantis or the massive pyramid builders, and that the tribes of Israel would have been referring to the genetics of the Nephilim or the demigods, which could be traced as through the elongated skull genetics to the original source creation or clone that we either all came from or that started it all, or what is aliens or gods above us, who knows. But yeah, that there was a time that we were living with them openly in that time, and that they probably still could live among us or at the same times as us, just that in our modern, we've won our freedom or something from them. But yeah, exactly. The simulation under, right? Like, all spitballing ideas here, but
who knows? But anyway, it's been 2 hours and I'm starting to die. So
okay, Brucey bonus. I gotta play this last little piece here of the Dying Man's Wish, and he actually shows a bunch of artifacts that were supposedly from these what official history calls native peoples or the mound builder peoples, but in fact their skeletons seem to be these Nephilim bodies, and that they would have been alive during the time of the past 12,000 years or whatever the heck, or something like that. Anywho, is that all right if I play the last 5 or 10? Do you want me to end yours now, Campbell? Or